What is your name?
Keith Anderson.
Perfect. Tell me a wee bit about yourself now. So your age, your former occupation, your hobbies, if you're married, do you have any kids? Just a wee bit of background about yourself.
Well, I've worked 42 years Northern Ireland Electricity, and if you put the connection into a certain Ollie Lamrock about here, you'll discover that him and I worked together for 35 years. It's at the very start when the initial talk was made about forming a rugby club associated with the Londonderry YMCA. Wooly and myself were at the front of that there, and we started the chats about 1982, and we got together, 6 of us: Ollie Lamrock, Eddie Nutter, myself, Ricky Gardner, and unfortunately the other 2 names are lost to me at the minute. But we started off just talking about this as work colleagues at first, then friendly colleagues who all actually played rugby at that time in Limavady. And what a lot of people didn't realise, Limavady had 4 rugby teams. The third team was, to all intents and purposes, formed by people from the city here, mostly in the waterside, and for other reasons wouldn't have been happy playing in the city of Derry during the height of the Troubles. So the talk started. 1982, we started our applications, and here we are now, trying to write the history of it.
That's great. Did you have any members who, was there any cross community in the rugby club, or was it mostly those from a Protestant Unionist sort of background?
The talk always was that the London YMCA was a Protestant organisation, whereas in reality it is for all faiths and none. The rugby club itself was totally cross community. In fact, there were people we don't know what religion they were because they were actually in the security forces. They were soldiers here, based maybe in Eglinton, came along with us, and you had chaps from the top of the hill. But though we were cross community, regardless of what anybody wanted to think, we were totally mixed.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. So, you were involved from day one then? So was it mostly just you and Willie, or was it everybody?
There were half a dozen, 6 of us initially got together, see could we do it, but we had the undertaking of others that if and when it got off the ground, they would be coming with us, which meant that actually Limavady Rugby Club suffered the most, for they in effect lost a complete team who all moved here to Drumahoe.
And what was the connection to the YMCA initially? Was that Wally was involved first, or were you all just sort of looking for somewhere to go?
The YMCA, when it was formed, or when it was relocating here to Drumahoe, in partnership with the Presbyterian Working Men's Institute, PWMI, Institute Football Club, they threw their hat in, and the grounds were purchased here. And there was an opening to form a rugby club, and it was Herbie Burns was the initial instigator of it, and approached us to say, could we get a team together? That's what really that's what started us off. And we had our initial meetings. Herbie's daughter was the manager of the Brimhill Hotel. She provided a room for us to get together. Later on, we left the Brimhill on account, we had no money. We couldn't pay the bill any longer for the rent of the room. We moved to Joe Smith, RDJ Electrical. He became our president, and he sponsored us to get us off the ground, because there were no grant aid, no funding, it was all off our own bat. Yes, the grounds were provided, but we purchased our own rugby posts, we purchased our own shirts, we purchased everything that started here. We marked the pitch out ourselves. A late Cash Rahal, well known in rugby circles, a civil engineer, he marked the pitch out for us and made sure we put the post directly opposite each other. Otherwise, if we depended on Willie Lamrock and his theodolite, they would have been a wee bit askew, I'm sure. But we got there anyway. We got the post up, we got a pitch marked out, and we borrowed our first set of shirts, and we borrowed them. We used to borrow of Police End Division. They had a rugby team. they loaned us shirts. There was an army team, and we, in fact, there's a set of shirts I see in the store there, stripes. They were ex-army shirts. A regiment leaving the town left them behind for us, or somehow forgot them, whatever reason.
No way, that's mad. That's great. Because we don't know anything about those shirts, so it's brilliant that you're able to tell us. Do you know anything about the other shirts? Actually, I might get you to just go around and tell me about a wee bit about each of them whenever we get
Well,
back in.
by and large, the YM rugby shirts are based on the old Londonderry YMCA hockey club. They were a midweek and weekend team, and there were still a few of them living at the time when we formed, and they thought they were glad to see us elect to play their shirts, which are known as red and black, quarters reversed. Hence, that's to the end. We played in red and black.
That's brilliant. So describe a typical day or session whenever you were going on to play or train or whatever. What kind of way? What did that look like? Like what typically happened?
Well, playing, everybody had played before, so we weren't starting. Players weren't starting from the very bottom, albeit you had to start in the very bottom of the Ulster League. Ulster Rugby had senior, junior, intermediate, and minor rugby. And if you formed a new club, you began a minor rugby team. I think there were 7 leagues, minor leagues. You went up to minor 7. Then after a year, when your results are showing you're maybe strong enough, maybe not like a up one league, but they moved us up 2 or 3 leagues, and eventually we made ourselves right up into junior rugby. But I'd say a day was our typical days. You met up at Fraglog Supermarket. If it was handy, you maybe just took your cars, you shared a car. Later on, if we got a wee bit more fluid, put a few pound a week away. We used a coach, money boss, whatever we could get at the right price. And that was, so Saturday, you'll see the shirts, mostly local sponsors, Lapsley Fuels. I've been a big sponsor of St. Johnson Band, big sponsor of Limavady, yet he threw his lot in with us. A few of his staff played for us. You'll see upstairs, downstairs. You photographs there of Harry Coyle, the late Harry Coyle, presenting rugby balls and upstairs, downstairs. Lloyd Cook Motors, from a whole firm. Cook Repair, Accident Repair, so we were part of the community and supported by the community. A lot of the good photographs you see were taken by Bill McLeod, who never missed a Saturday down here. A very highly thought of amateur photographer. Supplied his photographs to the Sentinel. Look at the Sentinel archive, or right, you'll see them in black and white, but you'll see a lot of Bill's photographs in the Londonderry Sentinel. So it's archive in the early days. Who else? St. John's Ambulance Brigade were a regular tender. They used to come down and walk the touchline with us on a Saturday and support us. So we were well thought of, and we're part of the community and the community.
And what was the single most memorable moment or event you experienced while being a part of the rugby club?
We got together, you say 82, played our first matches in the season of 83, 84. And in those days, the talk always was, you'd never be a club all together unless you go on a tour and really get to know each other. So we set sail to Scotland and the Isle of Arran. And we went to the Isle of Arran. We travelled over Larkin Ryan and we got to the Royal Hotel in Girvan, where we were based for our first match. And I don't like saying about being mixed or whatever, but one of the players, Johnny Toland, highly thought of, Fingers Toland, he's always pointing, blaming the opposition. The late Johnny Toland, unfortunately, he passed away. But when I got to the Royal Hotel in Girvan, no mobile phones in those days, there was a message for him. And the message was, get home quick, your wife's gone into labour. And that was the end of Johnny's tour after 5 minutes, booking into the hotel. So we had a coach driver and he agreed that we somehow got him a flight direct back. So the coach driver took Johnny, full coach load, up to Prestwick Airport. I think it might even have been for a flight back. So that was the highlight of Johnny's tour. That was our first tour. Eddie Nutter, who I believe you've also interviewed, Eddie could not go, would not go, because he got married the day before. But he came down anyway to see us off, and his wife said, "Why aren't you going? Don't be silly, sure we're not going away." And I went on, go on with him, but he didn't give in. So that's what sort of club we were. We got together, we stuck together.
That's brilliant. And what were some of the challenges you experienced when you were part of the rugby club?
Biggest challenge is finance. You can't go asking the same people every time to help you. Rugby is an expensive hobby. You had shirts. Well, shirts were several £100 away back in the 80s. And they didn't last very long. People were pulling at them and tugging at them. You had match balls to provide. You had to entertain the visiting team. So you had to give them a meal after. That was traditional rugby. So we tried to simplify it by saying, look, take the opposition out to, in those days, the old end the cross, Ivan Miller. And each player was told, you entertain your opposite number. You see that they are right. You see that they're given something to remember their journey here. And a few more pound each will get them a meal. In fact, in the cross will be their first ever annual dinner. That was another feature of rugby, is when you could go and other teams invite you or invite your president or your captain to their annual dinner. So the question came up, are you having an annual dinner? Well, we did have one. We had it in the cross. And a very, very good night it was. End of season, summer night, we all went home in daylight anyway. And I don't know how the fire extinguishers went off, but anyway, they went off. The fire extinguisher went off at the end of the cross. But I would Muller's all funny side of it.
And thinking back, what was the most valuable skill or lesson or even friendship you gained from being part of the rugby club? Or all three?
We were cross community. We turned away nobody. And anybody, there was a place for everybody. No matter what your level of skill was, we could find a place for you. So we started with one team and we ended up with a second team, and that really swept up everybody. And at one stage we could nearly have fielded 3 teams, because a player brought a friend, and their friend got a friend. And, they're not bad. They're not bad folk. But no airs and graces about us. We started from nothing here in '83. And we slowly worked our way up on it. And with support, a lot of families used to come in. Some families had 3 brothers, and then the father came out to support them.
At its height, how many do you think was on the club?
We could at one stage have put out 3 teams.
How many would that be?
You were 15 players to a team, and we could conceivably field 3 teams.
So about 45.
And we could play. We did end up with a second pitch. We started off with one pitch here at Turmahoe. We had a second pitch at one time, and at a push come to shove, we could borrow the pitch of Fawn Valley School across the road. And many a time, 30 players crossed that road, full kit and boots and all on them, walked across that road down onto another pitch.
Yeah. And so thinking about the Londonderry YMCA as a whole, what do you believe was the most significant contribution or positive effect the rugby had on the organisation during the time?
The rugby section were actually very big, and the big supporters or big involvement in the entire organisation, not just as a small sports entity. I myself was part of the founding of the building at the time we moved the building here. Wooly was there.
What age were you whenever the building got moved here? So was it?
I would have been 24, 25 just.
Young.
Oh, thank you.
Only young.
So, no, we when we come in, we threw our whole weight in. And you couldn't really cherry pick what bit you wanted to be a member of or what part you wanted to play. You played your full part in the whole thing. And we were there at the official opening, of this building. No connection of mine. Jerry Anderson, Radio Foyle, he performed the opening. We had a few open days here. No, not the opening. I was here on some of the first open days where we invited the community to come out here. We had firework displays. We had the fire brigade that's staged accidents to cut people out. We had quite an event. This was a community hub. Well, you see where it is now. What it's developed into with a youth club. I mean, that all started way back 84 and we were a full part of it.
And you were saying before that you were the General Secretary for a while. Could you talk me through a wee bit about that and what you had to do as your role?
Well, the entire organisation here was voluntary. Any organisation, committees can sometimes be difficult, but you had a coming together of two big names, Presbyterian Working Men's Institute and the London YMCA, both city-based organisations coming out to the rural setting with its own aims. And we had to work together. You had to do funding. The funding had to be done in a big way. The churches were heavily involved too. Local ministers, Reverend McWhirter, Reverend Morris Bolton, Canon Moore, the ministry here. So there was a lot of head honchos of the local community. So we worked it all out. We did whatever had to be done to maintain it.
And what made you sort of, I suppose, like step away from it all?
I moved on shortly before the appointment of a new youth worker here. That youth worker, there was more work to be put on his shoulders. I had another job, and it didn't lend itself to the time that I had here, so I moved on with other things.
And is there anything else you think I should have asked you, or anything between your time volunteering and your time in the rugby club that you feel like should be part of the archive and I should know?
Wally Lamrock was a great man for getting things done. But unfortunately, Wally was a bit like Marmite. You either liked him or you didn't like him. If you didn't like him, you got to like him, so you landed your fight. If you liked him, we made far, far better headway. Not that he was open to pulling the odd prank on you.
Really? Like what?
We took a trip to Dublin one time in the late 80s. Called the Autumn Internationals, which have just finished here this November. And we went to Dublin. And people sometimes at all the places, people who want to connect with that they hadn't seen, who went to university in Dublin, would call up with them. But Wooly, I think that day Wooly actually was driving the minibus we heard. And he parked it. And I myself got separated. But I knew the minibus was parked, we knew what time we were going. And I was back in time for the minibus, but it was gone. So, well, what can I do? I just went round there on the train and got the train to Belfast. Phoned my wife, says, look, I got separated here. Can you meet me up in Belfast? This was 91, 92. Oh, certainly. She came up and collected me in Belfast. And again, no mobile phones in those days. And I got home, straight to bed. Been a long day for whatever reason. And I phoned the house phone at 2:30 in the morning from Dublin. Said, Joan, we're badly delayed here. We've lost Keith. We cannot find him anywhere. And she says, well, look, that's grand. Wally, don't worry about it. When he gets up in the morning out of his bed, I'll tell him. And Wally, where is he? Hey, come on home. He's home. He's in his bed. So that one backfired on him. But here, We still get on when you're out the next Saturday, you play again. That's the sort of carry on we get up to.
That was perfect. Thank you so much.